Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here one more day. This is Friday, and with every Friday, we have a Deploy Friday episode because every day is a day to deploy your application in the cloud with platform as Sage. I'm here with my colleague Larry. Hello, Larry. How are you?
Hello, world.
Whoa. I'm here with Donato, who is Italian and can move your hand as he
Hey,
wants to.
ciao.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
not
here
just because you expect this.
yes, come on. And yes, my colleague and good friend Karina Varela. Hello, Karina. How are you?
Hey, thanks for the invitation for being here today. It's a pleasure to be here at the Deploy Friday session.
Okay, that's. I'm glad you come. So, okay, this episode is about business automation, right? And let me do the first question as well. What exactly is business automation?
Go for that one, Marazzo.
So, well, business automation is it's a strange term that we invented in Red Hat. It's I think that nobody know part of people that know Red Hat because it's something new that we use. But it's a sort of bundle of two well-known technology. One is the BPM, business process management, and the other one is digital decision management. So the conjunction of those two matter. We thought that it's about automation, but it's about automating your business logic. So for this reason, we call it business automation. That takes a lot of it's a bit misleading because people start thinking, oh, automation is about creating your pipeline and things like that, but it's not like that.
Exactly, because if you think about, for example, Ansible, that's also for automation, but it's for infrastructure automation. So that's the catch there. So when we are talking about automating business logic for processes or decisions, then we are talking about decision management. Oh, business automation.
Okay, we are here. We are all developers, and when you talk about decision, probably every language has the if, else, something else. Why not just put a lot of if, else in my code?
Yeah. Aren't we describing code? Isn't that kind of what code is?
Yes. So basically, the first thing that I say when I explain what is a decision, it's like if then else. So this is a classic something that is really well known for a developer. So the reason for decision management is when you there are many reasons. There are many benefits that you can try to get from decision management. One of these is trying to involve someone else that is not a developer in your decision. So if you write your own if then else in any fancy programming language, and you try to explain to your business user, oh, well, we have rejected the loan because here we have this nice piece of code with if, then, and there is this double equal. Well, that double equal is equal, but it's a slightly different because, there are objects, there are instances, and you have to explain these things to your business user. And the people start saying, oh, what are you saying? Well, I cannot understand your logic. So the first reason for having decision management is try to explain what you have in your code in a better language. It's something that can be understood from someone that is not a developer. This is the first reason. Then there are other, maybe Karina has some other points.
Yes, exactly. Because if you think on the point that Donato mentioned, we have, for example, real use cases where the system has more than 3,000 rules. And if you had 3,000 ifs on your code, well, that could be a little bit of a spaghetti, but that's one thing. The maintenance becomes harder, and also the validation goes through the traditional process where you have to package your project, deploy it. So the time you take from validating the actual business logic implementation and the actual deployment takes longer. Why? Because the business user is the guy who actually owns the information. Otavio doesn't know anything about loans approval, for example. He knows how to code. But the person who actually knows about the business is the business user. So this is the person who actually needs to validate everything that we deliver as a code. So the best way we could have this being validated would be to provide this person something that they could actually look at, maybe even change it if they want. But this is actually treated by us, technical guys, as code, as traditional Java projects deployed through CI/CDs. So that's kind of how it goes. And yes, we are talking about some types of a more user-friendly UI for the business user. So some tables, some things that they can look at, diagrams that actually at the end becomes code. But no, it's not a low code approach before you bring that to the table. But yeah.
So would this be usually implemented as like a simplified text language, or would it be implemented as a gigantic form with lots of buttons and so on there, or both?
Yeah, there is a long story of trying to make the rules something that can be easy accessible by a non-programmer, I would say. I'm tempted to say a business user, but this concept is really evasive. So many customers, when they talk of business user, they have a different concept of what a business user is. So what I usually try to say is that the point is not to engage maybe the top director in your decision writing. It's more trying to engage someone that has a technical background, that is able to understand a formal language, and but is not a daily programmer, so he cannot go through hundreds of lines of code. So he need a sort of abstraction on top of this code. And there are different attempts. So our project, our open source project, has more than 20 years. So, well, not more. We're just near to the 20, but okay. And so the thing is that we tried different ways. One of the most recent is DMN. So because it's a standard, is an attempt of creating a standard for decision. DMN stands for decision modeling annotation. So it's an OMG standard that is out there. You can look for it. There is a spec document that explains how it works. So it has many nice features. One of these is an expression language that is called FEEL, and FEEL stands for friendly enough expression language. That gives the idea of something that try to be friendly, but it's even a sort of self-conscious of not being so, let's say, easy.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that Karina mentioned. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Karina.
Yeah, just to complement. So at the end of the day, we are talking about using worldwide recognized extension specifications like BPMN, DMN, PMML, all of these extensions in order to automate business logic. So at the end of the day, we have many other things around it, but that's the core thing where we are going to deliver our logic.
So it sounds like one of the ways you could do this with this mostly friendly language you're describing, it's the same idea as, say, a template engine, but for decision rules rather than display. So that's the kind of idea, a reduced scope targeted, still written language.
Yeah, but notice that we are talking about two things here. So we have this perception on bringing the business users closer to the development by bringing this easier way for them to see what is developed or implemented. And we also have a rules engine, a workflow engine, and actually these engines are created to actually have a better performance than your traditional if and else. So we have special algorithms in there that can infer the results of thousands of business rules in a matter of milliseconds because of the algorithms that we have in there. So it's not only about simplifying visualization, but also on the execution improvement.
Okay.
Yeah, often this point is often underevaluated by, especially from developer, because developer thinks my code is the most performant thing that I can write. I have the control on the code. But it happens that when you have many rules, not 10, not 100, but 1,000 of rules, and this happens when you go through, for example, a decision table with many lines. So in this case, you need something that is better than if than else. Otherwise, you're going to check all the possible line of for example, of this decision. So there are some algorithms that can do this pattern matching in a better way. So it can go directly to the point, avoiding a useless evaluation. That is another point. And yeah, obviously there is the attempt of doing something that is easier to understand for non-programmer.
So the same way that an SQL query is going to be more performant than handwriting your own search through a lists algorithm, because it's optimized for searching through ginormous lists. Same idea here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all it's like it's the general concept of a middleware. It's a building block that you use to build your application, and so you can find someone that already solved a set of problems that obviously can make it the life easier for you. That's the point exactly the same.
Okay, one thing that Karina mentioned about put the business automation close to the business itself instead of a bunch of if, right? That reminds me a little bit of the concept of DDD, right? Because in DDD we have the concept of ambiguous language. My question is, how can I differ this approach from business automation itself?
So both complement each other, because DDD is a way where you can model your domain, and inside the domain we have the solutions. Our technical solutions can be either a microservice that uses Python, or can be a workflow engine that delivers workflow automation. So that will be either inside your domain, you're going to actually use DDD to model it, and your solution will bring these concepts that you modeled using DDD. So it's not an exclusive decision. You can think of it just as a technology that you are adopting on your architecture. So you don't say that, do I want to use DDD or Hibernate? You just use it. See what I mean? So that's basically...
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have one more question about that, because usually, at least in my Java history, when you talk about business automation, something like to huge company that has a huge amount of rules, like I mentioned before, like 3,000. My first question is, who's the target to use business automation? Can a startup start to use it, or just a big airport system, something like that?
Yeah, so yeah, that's so yeah. You have a sort of trade-off between the complexity that you want to handle and the building block that you put in your architecture to solve that problem. So for sure, if you just have 10 rules, such kind of number, 100 maybe, you may think, okay, it's not a big deal. maybe I can write my own logic to handle this. But even in that case, since our engine is not so, let's say, it's not so big, it's not something that is going to ask for 1,000 of core. It's a quite lightweight open source project, so it's designed to be lightweight. You can have benefit even in those use cases with few rules. But sure, the more you have, the more rules you have, the more the decision engine is going to help you. For processes, I don't know. Well, it's a bit different between rules and processes. So the rules, the important thing of the rules is even the numbers. So if you have a few rules, maybe you can skip it. But for processes, is slightly different. We usually see customers that start using a process engine, even if they have to handle on just one workflow or two. So it's not the point for processes is not handling the massive number of processes, but the point is to gain in business visibility. So because you want to understand the status of your process better of what you could do with your own code, because it's always the same. So you are putting a piece in your architecture that is going to save you to do this on your own, to write the code on yourself. But in the context of processes, you may think at the beginning as a developer, you may think, oh, this is just an order management process. I can put the status of the order in my table, and that's it. I'm done. But over the time, you need a bit more sophistication. You need to give some evidence of what you have inside your engine, the status of the process. People would like to share the knowledge about the process itself. So with time, you understand that having a proper workflow engine with a well-known notation that can be shared among the user, among the people that know about the process, is a value by itself. So people like a lot the idea of sharing to improve the process visibility, that otherwise it stays underneath and the customer cannot understand what's going on. So what is the next step of my process? What was done before? Who is in charge for so the typical question that people that deal with processes, where is stopped my process? Who is in charge of this order? Who is in charge of approving my loan? And you have to, you can provide your UI to show this, but with a process engine, it's better.
Yes, exactly. And it's important to understand the differences there, because we have scenarios where you need decision automation. You have scenarios where you need business process automation, because and there are scenarios where you need both. So sometimes you want, for example, you have some process in your company. Let's say I'll put it in a use case where everyone have some understanding. So we order on iFood and we have what is going on there. So the restaurant has accepted, then the order has been prepared, then the order has left the restaurant, and then it gets to your home. That's a process. And then you have steps on what is going on there. And then you have human tasks on that process, because each person is doing one thing. Maybe we could have, for example, some automated decision, some automated decision on this process that could say, for example, if this person is a frequent customer, give him a discount of 20%. So who decides about the value of this discount? Wouldn't it be easier if we could handle, okay, so here, business person who actually takes the decision of about the discount. How much discount do you want to give for frequent users that order more than 10 times in a month on Uber Eats, for example? So we are mixing a business process along with a decision that is usually made manually or that is hard-coded on your software that can be implemented in a different way. So that's another thing. So, okay, who are the people who will use this? People who have business process within their companies and need to automate it somehow, or people who have decisions and need to automate it or track it and see what is going on in order to improve it later. So that would be another point adding to what Donato said.
And so that decision component there could be you hard code in or configure in a UI or configure in a text file, if they've spent this much, give them this much discount. If they've spent this much, give them this discount, and just a set.
It's actually a table. You will look at the table, and there's like each line represents a rule. So if you have the frequent customer with more than more than 10 orders, give him, and then you write like 20%. So it's really easy to read. So it's not a text file.
Conceptually, you could also plug in a machine learning decision component.
Yes, that's the thing. And then you have the decision that are automated and hard-coded to give, for example, 20%. But we could use machine learning and say, okay, instead of using these hard-coded decisions, take the information from this engine, from this AI/ML here model that I've created. So we can actually combine these three technologies and deliver something really powerful for the business.
Okay. I'm starting to understand this here.
I just realized that we are missing one of the piece of the business automation. So
yes, I was thinking about it, but I want you to talk about it because you're so good at it.
So yeah, we talk about rules, about processes, and we have a third piece in our offering that is maybe the most unknown asset.
Donato. What? Guys, get ready because we are going. So we've talked about decision, we've talked about processes, and now we're going to talk about something different. So get ready for a new knowledge. Okay, let's go.
Drum roll.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another component that we have together with along in our portfolio in the business automation, but it's somewhat unrelated. It can be connected with it. I will show you how. So it's about mathematical optimization. So maybe you have heard that it's possible to optimize a problem. That there are at the college that there are courses about this. And how you can do this. So basically that there are people that wrote papers to explain how to do this, that there are complex algorithms that solve your problem, can solve this kind of problem. But let's do some example of the problem. So first of all, let's take something that is really near to our daily life. For example, you have to organize the employee rostering in an hospital. So you have to assign basically nurses to shift, doctor to shift. And so you may think that this is an easy problem. So you can just fit it. You can use a greedy approach, just fitting the people according to their needs.
That's an empty problem. It's not easy. I've tried.
Oh, you have tried. So if you ever tried something like that, you start thinking that it can be done easily. But as you put the hands on, you understand that you got in a mess really easily. So it's really complex. It's a mathematical problem, and they demonstrate.
Another thing that is really close to the technical folks that usually come to the Deploy Friday is like conferences scheduling, when you need to assign talks to rooms and you can't have the same person speaking in two rooms at the same time. So it's just crazy, right?
Yeah, there are many use cases. And another one is, for example, that is really common is the vehicle routing. That is a bit more than finding the best path between two places, because you want to find the best path, but according to some constraints. So, for example, you have to stop before here because you have to deliver something at this time, and then you have this asset that has a special requirement because it requires a frigid track that to deliver it. And so you have this combinational problem. So if you go ahead and studying the problem, you discover that it's an impossible problem. It's something that you cannot solve with the brute force, with your computing power. So there are those smart algorithms that you can apply to those problems that solve, that find the near optimal solution, because finding the optimal one, it's simply impossible. So it's near optimal, but it's much more than what you can get just trying on your own or just doing a bit of brute force on top of it. So, and basically this piece of software is known as OptaPlanner, is our upstream project. And we have this piece inside our business automation. We like renaming the upstream project, so we call it a business optimizer, but it's the same. So it's an OptaPlanner. So whenever you have this kind of problem of organizing things, even organizing a lesson at school for kids or for adults in events, you can use those kind of algorithms. And the OptaPlanner basically implement those algorithms for you. You have just to design the model to explain how is your domain model, and OptaPlanner is going to solve the problem for you. This is really powerful tools.
Yes, adding to that, I think that OptaPlanner is a type of solution, of AI solution that can actually help us save the world, because literally, because like I shared here on the chat, we show how we can optimize people going into their, how we can help hospitals or centers of vaccination, that is an ongoing thing today, address scheduling people to go there to actually be vaccinated. So this video that I shared here actually shows this in action. So this solution is an engine, and the front end can be developed with whatever you need. But the thing in there is the algorithm that is capable of helping us with these complex tasks. So, and this is actually being considered for this real use case solution. So, yeah. I told you.
Wow. So mind blowing right now.
You can then also change your definition of optimize. So you can optimize for, say, if you're handling employee scheduling, for giving people a consistent schedule rather than a highly variable schedule. That's something you can bake into the engine if you decide that's important.
Yeah, you say the constraints. So Otavio can say that he usually works from Monday to Friday, but he's feeling sick and he will not be able to work on the next 2 days, but you need someone on his place. The engine automatically does that for you, so you don't even need to worry about it. You just remove Otavio and put someone in the same place with the same skills that you need automatically. But that's the power of the algorithms. Yes, it's crazy.
Okay. Whoa, that looks like a huge power on my mind. Yeah.
And then your definition of optimized is what you would configure using your rules engine to say, employee consistency is this priority, and these are the available times, and optimizing the number of people in the building at the same time has this priority, and so on. And that's how you then can control what your definition of optimal is.
Yeah. And it's even, I would say that The optimization is something that we should push much more, because it's even a way to lower our footprint in the ecosystem. Because if you optimize, you reduce the resources that you need for the same work. So it's a way to solve many problems. So
including carbon emission and other stuff. Because if you're doing less trips with a car, then you're reducing, and that's also another real use case from one of the customers we have. So
it's a green technology, let's say.
So you've talked a bit about the application that you manage. We haven't actually given its name yet. So this is all business automation as a concept. Tell us about a little bit briefly about your product in particular, and how it works.
So business automation in general, it's about automating business logic, business processes, business optimization, like we said. And Red Hat has a stack of offerings that addresses these solutions. So we are talking about the problems, and we are talking about how we can actually solve it with Red Hat solutions.
And you both work for Red Hat. I don't think we've actually mentioned that.
Yeah, we have to say it correctly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, it's a building block. So we sell building block, and you have to build your own building.
Okay, Donat said something about the business automation process engine has more than 20 years, right? And that time we usually talk about monolith application, right?
Sure.
And my question is you a monolith BPM? What's going on that side?
Yeah. Karina, do you want to start?
Sure, I can do it. Yes.
Yeah.
So we have this engine who's out in the market for a while now. Back then, the concept of so BPM is not a solution. BPM is a practice for business to automate their processes, to define, execute, visualize what is going on, and improve the process. That is a practice for business. Then they started using technology to help them on that. So BPM is a practice. When we talk about BPM solutions, it started with like BPM suite collections, then we have all the flavors of it out in the market, and it indeed started as centralized monolithic solutions. As technology moved forward, as did these solutions, and it started to be decomposed depending on the goal that it needs to achieve. So it started, for example, with a single thing that could deliver the authoring part where you create your diagrams, your rules, etc., and the engine embedded. Then it got separated into a lightweight engine. And then we got the incoming of microprofile spec and the boom of Quarkus. So that's where Quarkus comes into the play, because the business wants technology to move forward, and we cannot leave them behind on this stack of solutions too. So that's where we started adding workflow solutions, rules processing solutions, and business optimization solutions on top of super ultra lightweight runtimes like Quarkus, for example, or Spring Boot.
Okay, but you mentioned that word, right? So right now it's impossible to talk about Red Hat if without think about Quarkus, where, by the way, Platform SH has support, and last week we released a new guide. So if you want to take your application in the cloud with Platform SH, take a look at this link. So the advertised moment, sorry to that. My question is, how can I integrate business automation in each situation? Do you recommend me to use Quarkus with this kind of engine?
Sure. So as Karina said, the problems of processes of rules are there since many years right now. So we started our project in 2001, and obviously we did with the technology available at that time. So, but during the time we obviously changed it. We tried to improve, added the new algorithm, added new better UI, and so on and so forth. So it's always progressing. And nowadays, people start thinking that having a big Java application that, a few years ago, it was pretty simple to start up an application server. The startup time was not an issue because you start it and it's your lovely server that stay there. You never stop it, and it's always there. And so even your BPM platform can start up on top of it, and it can stay there for years without any maintenance. Apart the day that it falls down and you recognize that you have lost everything because there are scripts that you can never find again. So recently, obviously, all our technology is trying to. So the problem is always the same. You always have the problem of managing rules. You always have the problem of managing processes, but you want to do in a more fancy way, something that is.
And today is all about cloud, right, Donato?
Yeah.
Insurance, saving, and it's all about it.
Yeah, so it was something that starts in a millisecond instead of starting in few minutes. And so how to do this? It was challenging. So we were lucky because our engine was already pretty lightweight. So, but it's still something that was relying on a lot of services based on the Java enterprise application. So you have to think that in a process you have timers, you have messaging, you have jobs queue, all this kind of stuff. So to manage a process. And so at a certain point, we realized that we have to move forward the project. And so we started a new initiative, and we call it Cogito. So I can repeat it, Cogito. I know that it's really difficult. So it's just... So
I wonder, Larry, are you a native English speaker?
Yes.
So you probably say cogito. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
Cogito, yeah.
Yeah, we always play with the English speaker, because it's really difficult to say.
So is that a Japanese name or Spanish name?
Latin? I think it's Latin.
Yeah, so it's...
I think therefore I am.
Cogito ergo sum?
I'm assuming that's where you got the name from. I could be completely wrong, but that's where I would expect it to come from.
Yeah, it comes from Latin. That's so it means think. Cogito in Latin means thinking, and so that the whole phrase that is a famous phrase of one of the thinker of a few centuries ago. It's cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, more or less. So, why it called in this way? Because all business automation is about managing knowledge, knowledge about rules, knowledge about processes, knowledge about optimization again. So we have this mantra that is knowledge. So how to say knowledge in Latin is cogito, thinking. And this is so this is the reason for cogito. And then, but the first letter is not a C, but it's a K, because it's a
K of Karina.
Yes, like Karina. Yeah, it's a K because we try to make it something that can run in a Kubernetes environment, better in a container environment in general. It's not just about Kubernetes. Obviously, for us in Red Hat, it's really important, Kubernetes, but it's a way to start up in a really lightweight way. So Cogito, it's this initiative that is trying to modernize all our middleware, all these things that we talk about, so processes, rules, and optimization, and make it even more lightweight, and to make it run on top of a distributed environment instead of being in a monolith environment. And obviously, this has a lot of challenges, but we are in a good shape. So we last year we reached our version 1.0 in the upstream, and we are still working on fixing it, make it more stable and stable. So now we can finally have a rule engine that starts up in milliseconds. So that is one of the
process engine. Yeah, exactly. So the thing there, at the end of the day, I know what I just want to know. Okay, how can I use it in Quarkus? Then okay, so basically with Quarkus, it's an extension that you can enable, and then you the extension allows you to execute these types of assets like BPMN diagrams, DMN diagrams, and when you want to develop it, you can, for example, use the VS Code tooling that is available in the marketplace. You just go in there and you type business automation or BPMN, DMN, and then you just have everything on your VS Code to implement it, and your process will be able to execute it within Quarkus.
Okay. So basically, we can run Cogito with Quarkus. Cogito is the Quarkus extension to that, or do I mean something else?
Yeah, it's slightly different because Cogito is the whole initiative of making it lightweight. So we initially targeted different environments. So even Spring Boot it can be a runtime. Obviously, we like a lot Quarkus because in that environment we can reach the maximum performance, and we can reach the maximum lightweight. So we can shrink it as much as possible. So Cogito is pretty open mind, so we can work even outside of Quarkus, but it's a perfect marriage for Quarkus. So absolutely, it's you will find an extension in Quarkus that will be Cogito, and so
how is that a library dependency where I can using Maven I can just put on it and that is it?
Yes. So the for rules is really simple like that. So even for processes, you can just install the library, you just add the extra dependency, and that's it. At runtime, so usually rules are something that are stateless. So you call it, you get back an answer, and that's it. Processes are a bit more sophisticated because they have a state. So when you go in a production environment, you need to provide a set of services like basically a NoSQL database to store your process status, so it's Infinispan. We have our first release is based on Infinispan. So so to start up with the development, it's easy like that. You just add an extra dependency, and you start developing and testing your process in your local environment. But when you go in production, you need to provide a bit of ecosystem around the Cogito, your application. But we also have developed some. It's just one. It's an operator. It's something that runs well in Kubernetes, but in any case, you can take from the operator the same logic and implement on your own to set up the whole infrastructure.
So I could run the engine standalone and just connect to it like over a REST connection from something written in Python or Node or PHP or something like that. I can do that too.
Yes, correct. You can. It's really simple. You expose it like a Quarkus service. So basically, when it generates a lot the endpoint for you. So you just for example, you take the DMN file. DMN file is an XML file. In Visual Studio Code, you have the editor that is a graphical editor where you can write your logic with a decision table, with the diagram that show you the dependency between the multiple decision. Anyway, at the end, it ends up in a XML file. This XML file, you just have to put this XML file inside your project. You start up the Quarkus, and automatically you get all the endpoints that you need to call the rule. So it's quite automagic deployed.
So with Quarkus, I can use microservice, I can use whatever I want to connect with any kind of database that I can increase my architecture complexity, right? And my question is, how does it work with event-driven architectures?
That is a great question, actually, Otávio, because when we are talking about business process automation, for example, and then Donato can talk about event-driven decisions, but I'll keep keep my focus on processes. So when we are talking about process automation, you will immediately think of a diagram that is modeled, and then you deploy it. And you invoke it, you start it via REST, for example. You interact with the human tasks via REST, for example. But what if my architecture is event-driven, right? What if I actually need to react based on an event that is put on Kafka? So for that, the technology also evolved in order to make BPMN standard reactive to these certain types of events. So in BPMN, for example, we have different starting nodes, which is a green ball or a green ball with a triangle, a green ball with a message sign. And if each of these elements serves for a reason. One of these elements is a message start event. And it is there in BPMN since forever. But today, what we do is that we can actually use the existing element that we already had in BPMN that all the business users are already used to working with to actually connect to a Kafka topic. If a message is put into a Kafka topic, is published to a Kafka topic, we can start a process. We can resume a process. We can emit events from a process to Kafka, and the rest of our architecture will react based on that. So we can either go for a traditional deployment or an event-driven architecture approach for processes, for example.
Yeah, so processes were the BPMN was designed years ago, and it was already designed to handle messages. So today, when we think about messages, we think a message on a Kafka topic, but it's for BPM. For BPM, it's just another technology that can send a message. So it's so obviously now Cogito, and so maybe the first integration point for Cogito is exactly that one. So we are targeting Kafka as our primary messaging bus. Maybe 10 years ago it was JMS, but now it's definitely Kafka.
So we've talked a lot about where this kind of automation is helpful, how you would do it, the tools around it. What's kind of the upper bound? One of business automation process tools have been around for a long time, and one of the running gags for a very long time was you have the business rules engine, which is so powerful and complex that you need a degree in that to be able to use it, at which point you've basically reinvented programming. So where's the upper bound where your complexity is so large that you probably should go back to writing code to eliminate the 15 layers of abstraction between you? Sounds like the lower bound is when it gets too complex to understand in code. What's the upper bound where it gets too complex to understand in rules engine? You have to go back to code. Where is that?
Well, it's an interesting approach. Well, obviously what we do, we try to design our engine to have no limits. So we try to avoid this. There is a trade-off. It's more a practical trade-off. Let's say it's a human limit, basically. Obviously, when you have to embark a new technology, you have to embark Cogito, you have to learn about it. So obviously there is a learning curve. You have to study something new, and so it's a matter of how complex is your problem that you are dealing with. So if you are dealing with a really simple problem, you say, okay, let's avoid to squeeze my mind on this new technology. Let's do it with a usual code. The upper bound limits, I believe, I hope that there's no one above us, or just the sky. But yeah, well, let's say that, for example, for processes, traditionally we had the limit that was the performance. So typically a process is something that store the state in a relational database. Traditionally, it's not about Cogito. Cogito, it's smarter on this. But so traditionally, for example, when I met some customer in a telco company, and they have processes that runs millions of transaction per seconds, because their process is the phone call. And you can imagine for a telco provider how many phone calls they have. So that kind of process was really hard to maintain with a BPM, because it was really hard to have that throughput that was able to deal with such amount of workload. So the solution is, yes, this is a process, but you have to write a really specific code in order to tackle this performance issue. And so usually that was an upper limit for our technology. But nowadays, with Cogito, things are changing, because Cogito rely on a NoSQL database. So we should be able to reach higher performance. Not sure how much higher, because we are still under testing, under benchmark. So, but yeah, we are in an order of magnitude that is at least one, maybe two.
Okay, an order of magnitude is still a pretty good improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one further question. When should I not use business automation at all? I mean, I have these rules here, I have this application, okay, I even should not touch in business automation because of that situation or that situation.
I have some ideas. So one of the ideas, and it is commonly misunderstood by technical folks, is for system integration. So I have something that needs, in order to be completed, need to invoke 4 remote microservices. It's just a straight through process. Like, I need to invoke these 4. I need to do handling of the exceptions in a really uncommon way. So I want the first retry to be 15 seconds, the second one to be 40 seconds, the third one to be like 1 minute, and then I want to invoke another microservice. Could you do that with processes? Yes, but wouldn't it be better for you to use an integration tool, for example, like Camel? So for processes, you really need to think about the numbers that I'm going to track with this process execution. Is it going to be useful for my business users to take decisions to improve the process? Because the BPMN practice says that at the end you need to extract the KPIs, the numbers that actually matters to business, and based on these numbers they can improve it. So if it is not if you're not going to take this type of outputs from your process execution, then you should think twice between choosing workflow solutions and a traditional integrations technology. That is one of the ideas. Do you have one idea, Donato?
Yeah, another way to explain the same concept is if you need the visibility on this process. So you may have a process that, like Karina explained, that it's just a number of call in a row, but you never stop. So it's something that is going to last a second, 2 seconds. So, and you don't have the problem of having visibility on top of this process. You don't need to understand where is stop at it at this point. So for sure, you want to look at you want to manage it as a process if it has a status. It has something that you want to inspect. If you don't want to inspect, you don't care about the status. You just want to do those calls in a row, and that's it. Or it can be much more complex. You can have branches, you can have a complex logic, but you are not interested in the status. You are just interested in doing this business logic. So maybe in that case, you have to ask yourself, maybe this is not a process. This is an integration flow. So in that case, the correct tool to use is Camel, or maybe you can write just code. But it's Camel is maybe someone else will explain better than me. But Camel is a really powerful tool in your pocket.
So it sounds like the threshold here is if the conditional logic is the important part, is complex and frequently changing. So you need the insight into it, you need the auditability of it. That's when you really want to be looking at putting that.
Perfect understanding, Mr. Garfield. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, please take my money. I love the business automation thing, but how can I go deep on that? Where can I find more details? And I know maybe I'd like to take my application move to the cloud, where I can get those informations.
Well, on the cloud, you should just move it to Platform SH. Of course.
That question, he had the answer, right? So I shared the link for key.org, where you will be able to find all the projects that are under the Key umbrella, which are the projects that have that are backed by Red Hat. These are the community projects. You can also go to Red Hat developers, and let me grab the link in a bit. And you will be able to find some getting started for process automation using the enterprise bits. And there is also another place that is on Monday, we will do a talk about Java in the cloud age, and we will actually see in practice a little bit of business automation, a little bit of the evolution of the technologies, since we now have the cloud worries and how we deal with all that, right, Otavio?
Yes. Next Monday, we have a webinar to put your cloud application in the cloud with business automation thing. Yeah, Larry, you see my moment. But anyway, you can say Platform SH twice, where we have almost 2 hours of webinar training where you show that include with live code moments. So if you like to know more, please take this link here where you have fun Monday.
All of the links we've mentioned will be in the show notes as well for those who are watching later.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
And that was amazing. Okay, we are almost 1 hour. So thank you, Larry, to be here to talk about business automation. And yes, grazie, Donato. That was amazing.
Grazie.
Karina as well. So
sure,
thank you
all for the opportunity, and see you on the next Friday.
Yes, thank you. See you the next Monday, and yes, for sure next Friday, because every day is a day to deploy at Platform SH.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.